So you were talking about your studio before and getting Jimmy and Hugo down there, Flight Facilities guys, putting this stuff through a bunch of hardware. In the mix process these days, what percentage of software versus hardware do you feel like you're using?
Well, it's still like 80% software, but I guess I have good, like the important things go through hardware. Like on the Chet record, on most of the records, I have this Listen Grove tube compressor that just sounds amazing on anything you put through it, really. So the vocal, most of the time, unless it's like unless the tube is too much for it, or if you're going for something really smooth, but it's almost one of these like I have a few boxes. I like things that just make things sound better when you put them into them. Like it's not rocket science really. So it's just like, I know if I put a vocal into that compressor, it sounds really good. So I just, I honestly, I barely change the settings on it. It's like always kind of like 12 o'clock and 3 o'clock. That's it. It has, the cool thing is it's like an Altec. It's a model of an Altec. So it has this, but it has a variable impedance switch. So you can kind of get darker or brighter depending on the sound that you're looking for. But still, like plugins are still that it's just easier with Recall. I do so many projects. So, and really we did an A/B with UAD stuff. I've done it with a couple of like big ticket items like a Fairchild. And we had the Fairchild at 301, which is like $30,000 compressor. I have the UAD version of that and had like 5 or 6 people in the room. We could tell that there was a slight difference, but it was not a difference where you could say, oh, the plugin was better or this is better. It was just like, oh, that one kind of has a bit more top end and that one has a little more body, but pretty much dead even. And one costs like $300 and one is $30,000. So I'll pick the one that costs $300 and, you know.
Totally.
So for hardware, I like stuff that they don't have models of. You know?
Yeah, exactly. What about in the box stuff? What's some of your go-tos? Like if you haven't got the Grove, is it the compressor?
Oh, the Listen Grove.
Listen Grove. If you haven't got that one handy, what would you go to in the box for compression?
Well, it
also, two different.
Again, yeah, it depends on. That's the one thing about plugins. There's so many of them, and they all do have their own flavor. My go-to probably for a vocal more than any other is the Soft Tube CL1B, which is the model of the Tube Tech compressor. That one's really smooth, versatile. It's pretty much always works, and you can hear it if you want to, but I'll usually use a series of compressors. This is the stuff that people want to know, right? Anyway, it depends on how pop your vocal is, but I'll usually use a series of compressors. So I'll knock a little bit off, maybe with a McDSP compressor bank, just take off 1 or 2 dB, and then I'll pick which one I want to get the flavor from. So then, like the CL1B is really smooth. You can have a really slow attack, and it's got that. It's a little bit pop, but it's fairly transparent. Then sometimes I'll use an 1176 model, whether it be the CLA one. I don't use that much anymore.
UAD one's pretty.
Yeah, the UAD one. Yeah, I don't. I use the LA2A. The UAD LA2A is pretty cool on a vocal. But yeah, I like to experiment with different plugins. So I have like my set ones that I use a lot, but then I love to try new things. I'm kind of a plugin addict. I have every plugin almost that. Although every time I say I have every plugin, somebody goes like, "Do you have the so and so?" And I go like, "No, I don't have that." So
it kind of leads into my next question. One of my latest crushes on plugins is Dr. MS.
Oh yeah,
Matthew Land.
That, yeah.
Of course,
I had that before you.
Yeah, of course. What's some of your latest crushes? Like latest to secret weapons, I guess you've discovered.
You know what I found? Well, because I'm a Pro Tools guy. I guess you're probably a lot of Ableton people, but I'm excited by ones that I haven't been able to use because I got this wrapper plugin. I think it's called DDMF, so that I can use all the VST and AU plugins in Pro Tools. So I got these ones by Cable Guys called Volume Shaper and Filter Shaper. Do you know about this one? Oh, it's pretty cool. You should check that out.
This is the stuff we want.
Yeah, this is this is the gold right here, people. Yeah, get the Filter Shaper is cool. The Volume Shaper is cool. I now, because I work on so much electronic stuff, I love stuff where I can do creative side chaining. So that's the Vengeance multiband side chain. Do you use that one? Probably you guys all know about that. And then the LFO tool is cool for that. The Volume Shaper is cool because you can set, and the Filter Shaper is cool because you can set it over like 8 bars instead of, like I used to use the Filter Freak, the Sound Toys one, which is still cool. But what I love about this Filter Shaper is that you can set how long you want your envelope to be over like 1 bar, quarter note, eighth note, 8 bars. So you can do it. It's just instant, easy filter sweep. So for you dance people, that's saves time.
Cable Guys.
Cable Guys. That's pretty
Filter
cool.
Shaper. Okay.
But I love all plugins. They're good. They're fun. I like stuff. I also like stuff that just doesn't make any sense or has no real world counterpart. Those are the ones. I mean, I guess my desert island one at the moment is the Pro Q. The Fab Filter EQ that I use on almost every channel in a session these days.
Cool. I'm going to try and squeeze in 2 more quick ones, and then we'll go to some audience questions. So if you've got 2 elements in a track that are clashing in frequency, say the kick and the bass, or a guitar and a vocal, what's kind of your go-to solution to try and make those 2 breathe in the mix?
Well, that's a good question. It sort of depends, like, because there's no set way of doing it. I find just because it depends on what you're looking for out of each one of those things. So I guess really it's like you tend to, people, especially in dance music, you tend to think like, oh, you need so much low end. But what happens is the low end kind of eats up your headroom. So, there are a couple of, I like the Pro Q and things like that where you can actually see it does the spectrum analysis, which I find really helpful, especially with low end, because not everybody has an amazing sounding room. So you might just see, my bass is really boosting at 60 hertz, and then I've got like all these kicks that are also 60 hertz. And I'll also use a spectrum analyzer. I use the Isotope Insight, which is, I think it's from the Isotope 5, but now there are so many different spectrum analyzers that you can have, but I'll usually have one of those on my listen bus just so I can see, okay, I've got my kick here. Generally, I do it by ear first, so I'll try to just sweep out like, okay, another good thing, I'm jumping around here, but a good thing about the spectrum analyzer is I think it's hard for people to understand what EQ actually is doing. So like I've had people sitting next to me and they freak out if they see that I'm cutting like, why are you cutting 20 hertz? Like I want this, it's got to be huge. The bass has to be huge. And it's like, so the Pro Q is cool because it can show you the before and after. So it shows, even if you put like a pretty steep cut at 20 hertz, you're not it's not like you've like eliminated all the 20 hertz from the frequency. In the same way that like people will say, oh, just it needs more 5K. And I'll be like, there is no 5K in this sound. It's like people will sometimes give you something from Ableton where they've put like a filter like this. And it's like, see, if there's no information, it's like saying like, I have like letters R, Q, and B. And it's like, well, I want more A. Like, but there's no A in that sentence. Like you can't add information that isn't there. So it's like people just think, oh, if I just boost 5K in this kick, that's going to give it point. It's like if there is no 5K in the sound at all, if there's no upper frequency information, you can't boost what isn't there. So it's so basically I'll use these tools to sort of look at what's happening in the low end. Like, oh, the bass has way too much 20 hertz or whatever. You can usually just get rid of all that anyway because it just takes up headroom. So I'll just see like, okay, I can probably roll off way more kick. Like it's like, which do you want to be more important, the bass or the kick, which they're both kind of equally important in many cases. But you should let them complement each other rather than fight with each other. So like in the old days, the old funk records, it's like the bass would play with the kick, and it's sort of, they become a unit. And that's what you want to feel. You want to feel it hit you in the chest. You want to like feel the vibration of it if you're in a club. So a lot of times also those places have subwoofers. Like you don't need to like blow the hell out of the low end because your track won't ever be as loud. It's like, just if you do these things with the spectrum analyzers, you can see like just adding like having a 50 hertz bass or 40, 30, whatever, you'll see how much louder that is just in your on your frequency spectrum. Like, you know, when you look at your mixes and you do that thing and it's always like skewed like that on your, have you ever done that? Anybody ever done that? But you see, like, and when you look at a commercial track, you see it, like, it just goes down like this. Like, you never have as much top end as you do low end because it just takes up more, you know, the frequencies are bigger, they're louder. It's yeah.